Well, glad to have Wisdom and Bible Speaks. Now, we're continuing looking at the Sermon on the Mount. Now, we're into chapter 5, and we're going to begin in verse 21 today. Through the end of this chapter, there are going to be six things where Jesus says something of the nature, you have heard it said, and then he'll give some statement, and he said, but I say unto you. And we're going to get the first one today. Now, understand something as we begin to look at this. We do need to go back and look in chapter 5, verse 17, where he says, think not that I'm come to destroy the law of the prophets. I have not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Now, here's a great truth. Jesus is not destroying what has been said in the Old Testament. As a matter of fact, every one of these, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, is going to relate back to something in the Old Testament. Three of them actually are part of the Ten Commandments, and so the other three are not. But they're things in the Old Testament. So he is not destroying the things of the Word of God. Rather, what he is doing is he is clarifying where that the Sanhedrin has corrupted it. They've corrupted its meaning, or they've tried to skirt the issue. You're going to find that really what Jesus is after here is he's looking at our heart condition rather than the physical aspects of things, oftentimes. And so we start with the first one today in verse 21. And I'm actually going to read all the way through verse 26, read those six verses, and it will back up on what this means. You have heard that it said by them of old time, thou shalt not kill, and whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment, and whosoever shall say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, Thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar. Go thy way, first be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Agree with thine adversary quickly while thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee the judge, and judge deliver thee the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Verily I say unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out thence, till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing. Now here we find that he's actually dealing with the sixth commandment, thou shalt not kill. So here we find that Jesus is dealing with this commandment. And he says, you have heard it said, thou shalt not kill. And if you kill somebody, danger of judgment. Well, that's the truth. You're going to murder somebody, then you're going to be in danger of the judgment and danger of what's going to happen to you. And he says, but I say unto you, now, is he changing that? No, no, the Ten Commandments are still very much intact. What he's now dealing with, he's dealing with the heart. All murder, at some way, shape, form, or fashion, comes from some sort of anger. It comes from a heart condition of unforgiveness. It comes from a heart condition of revenge, or something where there is an underlying cause there in their hearts of what we're doing to someone. That's why he says in verse 26, but I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. Now, notice he starts with the anger. Well, by the way, anger is one of those things that will cause you and I to do things that we shouldn't do. It'll cause us to say things that we should not say. It will cause us to begin to have bitterness in our hearts. You know, in Hebrews chapter 12 talks about bitterness and how that it is a root that springs up and defiles many. And so Jesus says, now listen, it is true, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder someone. You'd be in danger of the judgment. He says, but I'm going to take this a step further. I'm going to take it back to what I'm really trying to convey to you. That if you're angry with your brother without a cause, and if you don't learn to forgive, and if you don't learn to let that go, then you're going to find that it creates in you an anger and a bitterness to where that you hate someone, and you hate them, and hatred always in one shape, form, or fashion. It wants you to kill somebody, even if it's just kill their reputation. You want to talk about them, even if it's just to kill their character. You want to try to disparage them. And the truth of the matter is, that's what's happening when he says these three things in verse number 26. When he says, but I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. He says, you get an angry brother without a cause. it causes you to say things and do things that, hey, you're in danger of judgment. You're in danger of doing something that's unwise, making unwise decisions, and then you're going to be brought before the courts for something that you've done or said because of your anger and because that you would not let it go. And then he takes it a step further and he says, and whosoever shall say to his brother, Raka, shall be in danger of the council. And he says, now listen, I'm going to tell you, whenever you get to the point when whenever the first one, he's angry. Now the second one is Raka. Now there's some bitterness there. And he says, you know what, that's going to get you in trouble. That bitterness is going to cause you to take things escalated a step further. And then he says the very last one, whosoever say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. Come to the place where you'd be very happy if they were dead. And you'd be very happy if something happened to them or maybe even cause you to murder them yourself. And so the whole concept here is the Lord is dealing with anger, and he's dealing with how that you and I as believers that we ought to control our anger and we ought to control this anger that we have. Now, if we live in this world, there are going to be things that make us angry. You live in this world, there's going to be circumstances where we're dealing with family, friends, foes that are going to do things that's going to anger us. Sometimes you're going to be hurt real bad. Sometimes people are going to do things to you, hurt you. Sometimes they're going to do things against you, and you're going to be angry. And one of the things we have to learn is to forgive. By the way, where they ask for forgiveness or not, you have to learn to be able to do like the Lord does us. Isn't that a great truth? We're to be tenderhearted, kind, compassionate, forgiving one another, even as Christ has forgiven us. Ephesians 4:32 says. There's a truth in that. There's a truth that you and I have to learn to have compassion. We have to learn to have forgiveness. And so in verse 26, he deals, or 22, excuse me, he deals with the anger and the progression of anger. It goes from bitterness to hatred and causes us to do things out of anger and bitterness that we really should not do. Verse 23, then, when he says, therefore, if you are angry and you've got this anger and it's pent up in you, therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar and there remembers thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar and go first be reconciled to thy brother, then come and offer thy gift. He says, no, listen, you come to the altar and you remember you've got some sort of conflict going on between you and someone else. He said, really, before you can offer yourself to God, before you can give God glory and give God the honor and give your heart to God like you ought to, that if you can't reconcile with people that you see, if you can't reconcile with your brother, and notice in this portion, verse 23 and 24, he's talking about those that are, he calls them brothers. In other words, our family, our blood family, our church family, our neighbors, people around. He says, listen, you need to go to them and settle that, whatever that means. Have the humility, have the forgiveness, have the grace, just to be able to forgive folks. And then he takes it a step further in verse 25 and 26. Agree with thine adversary quickly while tearing away with him. He says, now I've dealt with your brother. And by the way, we understand that. I mean, we live with people and love people. We're human. We have our own will, and oftentimes we get upset with people that we love the most. And we hold grudges and get revengeful. And well, that's something we ought to forgive and go settle. But oftentimes with our adversaries, we almost justify it. That someone that's a foe to us that we think, well, I ought to be angry with them. I ought to not like them. But here he says, agree with an adversary quickly while turning away with him. And then he talks about the punishment that happen if you don't. Now here's the truth. The Lord says, listen, you're going to live in this life and you're going to be angry at times. Your flesh is going to cause you to be angry, and without a cause, without a biblical reason, you're going to be angry. And if you allow that anger to remain, it'll create bitterness. It'll create hatred. And so therefore, settle the anger that you have and the offenses with those close to you. Agree with your adversary quickly that you can disagree agreeably before the thing gets out of hand. In the way when it happens, rather than going to court and having judgment. What's a great truth here? Jesus certainly is not taking away from the Ten Commandment, thou shalt not kill. What he is dealing with is what causes that in the first place, is anger of our heart that causes to have bitterness and hatred toward people and unforgiveness. Thank you for listening today to the Bible Speaks.